Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 167 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe.
My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest on today's episode. From Powerhouse Animation, one of my coworkers, Kellan Stover, has joined the podcast. How's it going, Kellan?
I'm doing pretty good on this lovely Monday off from work.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's 4th of July. We're recording a little bit early. That's right. It is a coffee episode, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be drinking some of that on the show today. Kellan, we got you here because we're going to be talking all about animation in video games, 2D animation specifically.
The best animation. You know.
Objectively the best animation. Kellan, you directed a lot of the cutscenes from the new Sonic Origins game. So we're going to be talking a lot about your work on that game in particular, and then just kind of animation in the games industry in general, be it for advertising purposes or cutscenes or even in-game animations and stuff like that. So that's going to be a fascinating conversation. Can't wait to talk about that. We also have a lot of news we're going to be going over today. Nintendo had their annual meeting of the shareholders, and some stuff came out of that. There was a Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope presentation from Ubisoft. Let's see. Xenoblade Chronicle 3 had special edition pre-orders. Wonder how many people on this episode got that. And then lots more. We'll be getting into all that later on. But before that, how are we all doing? How are our past weeks? We having a pretty good week out there in podcast land, everybody?
Podcast land is pretty good. It is our JRPG club just started over on our Discord. So I've been putting some hours into playing Earthbound for the very first time. So I think I'm about 6 or 7 hours in. And the first 30 minutes, I was like, what is this all about? And then it kind of, then I got sucked in.
Dang. I have admittedly not started Earthbound yet. I gotta get on it. I see everybody's already way past where I am, which is like 20 minutes into the game from the last time I started it up, and now I'm already feeling like I'm behind. So,
well, you have 3 months, so it's all
yeah.
I'm taking a extended hiatus from Earthbound. I can't. The menu system, it just makes me turn the game off. I love the game, but I hate the game at the same time.
It's definitely its own thing, right? What about you, Patrick? You getting anything cool this week?
Yeah, I don't even know. You asked this question of like, how's your week? And I'm like feeling real confused. Didn't we just record this show? I don't remember this last week. I don't know. I've been.
Maybe we do it once a week. You know, it's like
I'm in a real weird summer haze. I think over here.
I feel you.
Of like my kid is at home and I am in charge of them, and I don't know what's happening. I feel like every day is the same. So it's not bad though. It's fine.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that it's actively not bad. I've been fucking around with my Steam Deck quite a bit this week. I was like going through like my itch.io games that I've gotten in bundles and stuff, like, because there's a new bundle out, the bundle for abortion rights. And anytime there's like a humanitarian crisis, itch.io is there to save the day by giving out thousands of games.
Lots of games for cheap.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, just I was up like super late last night, just like getting a bunch of games, like working on my Steam Deck through there and playing some old indies. That was fun. And I'm almost caught up on Better Call Saul. I've got like I've made it to season 6, and I'm completely obsessed with that show at the moment. But what about you, Kellan? You getting anything cool this week?
Just watching a lot of TV and bumbling my way through Skyrim for the first time, believe it or not.
Really?
That's how behind I am in the video game world.
Okay.
I tried it out like when it came out, was too busy or something, I don't know. And then a friend of mine, Gabrielle, was playing it, and
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Told me to start playing it. She gave me her PS4 copy, and I've just been like, I suck at this game so bad, but I keep playing. So
yeah, I was gonna ask if you're playing the smartwatch port, but yes,
there can't be a smartwatch.
No,
port. Okay,
I mean they've just ported it to everything.
I know, but that's why I believe you.
Very good.
Well, last week we talked about the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, and we got some nice comments on that in particular regarding Persona games coming to the Switch. Matt kind of openly asked the question of should he start with 5 or what? A couple people responded to that over on our Discord. The Huge 27 said, as someone who played Persona 5 as their first game, would strongly recommend another one because of the quality of life improvements and all that. It'd be hard to go in reverse order. Although Vincent Goodwin over on Facebook mentioned that you can start wherever because each game has its own distinct cast and setting with minor nods to the previous games.
Yeah, I think the thing you need to take into consideration there is that each of these games are like 100 hours plus. So it's like if you're just gonna play one, play Persona 5, okay. Maybe.
Patrick is holding up his hand with 5 fingers up, so that means
5 fingers.
Yeah. 5 fingers and then
Persona
and an R.
Oh.
Yeah, and an R.
And then an R. Yeah. And then over on YouTube, we got a couple comments in particular about the Xenoblade lore discussion. Hans Guger, great name there.
Thank you, Hans. You hear that, David?
They said that they love.
Lore.
They're here for the Xenoblade lore. So yeah, our audience wants more lore.
All right. Well, that'll make a side podcast for it.
And then I'm sure when the Xenoblade 3 comes out, we'll talk all about it. But
sure.
Also on YouTube, Record2 said, we certainly are living in the bad place these days. And with this regards to our discussion about Roe v. Wade and the state of the world. And video games and shows like Super Switch Headz are keeping them sane. Thank you for that. Record. That's one of the reasons it helps keep me sane to come here and talk to y'all.
Yes.
Well, so.
Yeah. Totally.
Appreciate you. And so, yeah, we love hearing from our listeners and viewers. So please do send us a note and maybe we'll shout you out on the next episode. We also appreciate it if you would share the podcast somewhere online and like and subscribe on YouTube. Helps us out. So we're going to get into the video game news and rumors for the week. Like David mentioned, there was a big Nintendo shareholder meeting on June 29th. And as happens at these meetings, they discuss various things and there's Q&A. And I think we'll open with the fun stuff, which is there were some good questions at this one. You know, sometimes I feel like when you read these translations, it's a lot of business, and there was plenty of that. But like apparently there's an individual who has purchased a lot of shares of Nintendo. I don't think specifically for this, but the way a lot of articles made it read is like they bought shares just so they could ask this question at the investor meeting. But they asked about a number of different games, though the Q&A itself only mentions F-Zero. About old games that have died, like, IP Nintendo owns, but they haven't made a game of in a while. Like articles mentioned that they asked about like Wario Land, and I don't even know what the fuck is the Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls. I don't even know what that is.
Oh, that's actually a really cool game that was never released here in the States, but it was kind of the precursor to Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. It's like done in the same engine and style and everything. And then that game did decently well in Japan, but then they never released it here, but then they just did Link's Awakening in that same style.
Gotcha. So there you go. Link's Awakening. It did get a sequel. Anyway, this was a fun question that was asked. And in particular, I think, the guy that asked it, like, got on Twitter and talked about it, the reaction from Miyamoto and stuff, that he said, Miyamoto smiled when I asked about this.
What does that mean? Something?
Yes, it does.
But no, didn't he buy like $40,000 worth of stock?
Whatever. I think what you have to have a large amount to get into these meetings.
Yeah, he bought like the amount that you have to ask a question to. Yeah.
Yeah. So
craziness.
I guess like the answer they gave was, they can't really comment on specific things, but that they make remakes and sequels and they're, always thinking about things. So in particular, Takahashi mentioned, people asked years ago about Famicom Detective Club, and eventually we did that. So we'll see.
There you go. Let's pull our money together. We'll get a Mother 3 finally released.
I thought there were some other interesting, good questions in here. In particular, somebody asked about female representation in Nintendo's leadership. Like, let me see if I can find that exact wording that they asked. But they asked about like, there's one like woman on the board of directors, but there's no internal directors in the company. And they asked about women in management, and that was a good question. And Furukawa had like a number. Like women account for 23.7% of management positions, which isn't terribly great. And I think that's across the world. So that's not just Japan, which you might say, well, Japan's backwards, but Europe and America, but 23.7 across the world. So
Japan's kind of always had an issue with this in business in particular, right? And so if this is across the world, then that just kind of shows how dire it is. Yeah.
And then there's also asked about like the Russia situation, and I thought that was an interesting question, and especially the comment that apparently it's not made a huge impact on them. A negligible effect is the way it's translated on their financial results that they have pulled out of Russia. So they probably weren't making a lot of money in Russia.
Did they talk at all about Advance Wars in regards to that topic?
Not in the like official Q&A translation. I don't know. I did not see a question about that specifically. It's more based around like, how is that affecting the business?
I wonder how much they even really market in Russia, because haven't they been like at odds with Russia over like some islands for decades or something like that?
Japan.
Yeah, there's like some northern islands that Russia claimed from Japan that are contested. So I don't think they're very happy with one another even before this Ukraine stuff. So.
And the Russian Nintendo company had a lot of bad press years ago too.
Yeah.
Like the guy that is the head of Nintendo of Russia was apparently a very controversial, to put it lightly, figure, and the morale there was low and all that. So
yeah, they're probably like, okay, great. Here's an excuse to pull out. Yeah. But Reggie, he was not.
Yeah. And then one of the other interesting things that came out of this shareholders meeting was they have like financial numbers, right? That's one of the big things they're talking about. And people have pointed out that the like raw materials costs are very high. They're like projected costs for raw materials in 2022 are way higher than like the last several years. In particular, one article compares them to 2019 and says they're more than double 2019. And so this could mean a number of things. The obvious speculation is that they're going to be making more hardware, right? Like the new version of the Switch or something. Though also the counterpoint to that is that everything costs more to produce and raw materials are just more expensive now. So maybe they're just being conservative, and computer chips and parts, as we all know, for all sorts of things are in demand and expensive right now. So
yeah, and it's probably only going to continue to go up, right? There's
for the rest of our lives.
There's no reason that the cost of materials is ever going to go down ever again, right? So it's like, I think buying as much now, even if they don't have immediate plans for like a Switch successor or a Switch Pro or something like that, it's probably just good to stockpile, I guess, like Smaug on so much gold.
Yeah, that's what the solution to our global issues and climate change is. Just stockpile.
Hoard. Yeah, make a bunker. Hoard. I mean, buy a bunch of spam.
Become a dragon.
build a underground lair.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a mountain. Yep.
Basically, be Benedict Cumberbatch if you can. That, I think, is the solution.
He's the weirdest kind of doomsday prepper.
Yeah. I got all this food? Gold, and I just sit on it.
But I got GTX cards out the wazoo.
Yeah.
Also, just to talk about the raw numbers for the raw materials. You mentioned in 2019, Nintendo spent 32 million yen on raw materials, and in June 2022, we're looking at 66 million yen. So if raw materials doubled, then it's probably the same as 2019. And 2019 was when the Switch Lite came out.
So maybe both.
And I mean, dude, it's like there is a Switch Pro. It's just like or a Switch 2 or whatever. There's new hardware, right? We know that there is. We just are waiting for it to be announced, right? And it's like developers have had dev kits for this thing for years now. If insiders are to be believed, there's rumors that like that's part of why Fall Guys took so long to come out is like, and why it's now runs like shit is like they were trying to have it be at parity with everything else, and then it just wasn't coming out. Genshin Impact, that's another kind of oft rumored game that was announced 2 years ago that was supposed to come out a very long time ago, probably with new hardware. that is just also being held back. So I think they don't want to have supply issues when launching new hardware. So they're going to be taking their sweet time and getting this stuff up and ready, and probably stockpiling quite a bit for, whatever comes, if that's a DLSS system or whatever.
Unless there's anything else about the meeting I want to talk about, we can move on to the Ubisoft presentation for Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So like in the Nintendo Direct mini event, they mentioned that there would be a separate presentation for this game in particular, and Ubisoft would be doing it. And that happened a week ago. And we just, happened right before we put our podcast out, so we can talk about it. But I don't know, there's a lot to talk about here. I don't know that there was a ton of new information in this outside of what they showed in the Direct, which is a weird thing, in my opinion, that it was even existed. But it was still, I watched all of it and enjoyed it, and I've already kind of sold on this game. But there were a few new things, right? Like, I think we learned maybe a little bit more about sort of the overworld, which, I mean, we kind of even speculated like there's going to be more to do in the overworld. That felt like it's going to be a little more like going on with that. And they showed off a little bit of that, a couple different kinds of puzzles and things, and talked a little bit more about the story. And Takahashi was there or like had a little throwaway segment to him, which also felt unnecessary and strange. The whole thing felt a little unnecessary and strange to me.
Well, that Takahashi being there thing in particular has kind of fueled a lot of questions as to like, why would they shoot just that? Like, what would they bring him out just to shoot that? Or was this part of a bigger Direct that got cold? You know what I mean? That, that maybe there's more stuff that they haven't released yet, but I'm getting way into speculation.
No, that's what, it was just strange. But it was also felt like it was filmed for this, because of the way he talked, and he didn't like, or you know what I mean? He's like, something he said that made me, think, no, this wasn't like something they just pulled from a Direct thing. But yeah, maybe they like, hey, throw this jacket on and we'll do the Ubisoft thing, and then take the jacket off and we'll film the Direct part or whatever,
Right, but he didn't like roll out of bed. He was like in the in the studio
and
right?
like doing his finger up, that he always does on the on the Directs. Yeah.
Kellan, did you play the first Mario and Rabbids game?
I never did. Hot take. I feel like the Rabbids are kind of like the minions of the video game world.
Oh yeah.
I should have, because I did hear it was pretty charming and kind of better than some of its parts, sort of thing. Like it's like an XCOM type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Almost kind of like a tactics grid system sort of thing.
Right. And we know you're a huge Minions fan, so I figured this would be right up your alley.
Well, like, I think exactly, you just said it. It's better than the sum of its parts. I mean, actually, I would say Mario's great, and I have no problem, like that. But the Rabbids, like, that's a turn off, and then you play it, and you're like, oh, I actually might kind of like Rabbids now.
Yeah, they're kind of funny.
It's like, wow, that game may have sold me on Rabbids.
It's one of those things where you like somebody had the idea, but you go like, well, why?
Yeah.
And then it came out and people were like, oh wow, it's actually good. So whether or not that's because of the blending of Rabbids and Mario, I think it's more probably mechanics than anything, but
it is colorful and charming, which the Rabbids do. And they talk about in this, one thing they said in this presentation is like the music, right? Like the Grant Kirkhope and several other notable composers are involved. And like the game, the original one too, right? Like some of the characters and the Rabbid characters, and like particularly that opera segment or whatever it is, the Phantom in the first one is just really well done. And the music is great and all that kind of stuff. So.
I didn't realize Grant Kirkhope is he was a Rare composer, did lots of music for like banjo.
Yeah, he did the first soundtrack as well. But yeah, no, it looks good. I'm excited. I mean, I will say it's going to be hard for me to pick this up day one, because these Ubisoft games go on sale like within like a month or two for deep discounts. Yeah. But I mean, it looks great. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be a day one for me.
Yeah, it'll be like a month two, because like you said, they almost always like a month later, they'll go on sale. So
yeah.
And if you can wait even longer, they'll probably go to deep discount. Yeah. Anyway.
Art is worthless. Get it for $5.
Yeah. Be cheap. We got some trademark news here that whenever this kind of stuff comes up, I tend to think it means nothing, and we'll talk about why. But it's always interesting to follow too, though. New trademarks have been filed for Donkey Kong in particular, is what a lot of people are talking about, because they updated the language on it. Though again, I don't. Everybody loves to talk about this and think it means something. They updated the language to include some stuff about like downloadable content, right, for consoles and stuff. But I'm sure that is just some lawyer reviewing it and saying we should add this, and not like this means there's going to be a DLC for Donkey Kong or something, because trademarks are really just so that other people can't use your name, right? You keep them up to date for that reason. But I don't know, we'll see. There's also been all those rumors for Donkey Kong, so maybe it does tie in, or maybe they want to make sure they have it in place everywhere for that reason. I don't know if there's anything y'all want to read into any of this.
I mean, not really. It's anytime there's Donkey Kong news, I get excited, even if it's just rumors and speculation. But
does anybody know if Retro is a big enough studio to be handling like multiple games at once? Because I mean, I know they're doing Prime 4. Can they even handle doing like a Donkey Kong Country Returns?
They're hiring so much for Prime 4.
game.
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I don't know.
But maybe they had a lot of turnover.
That was my initial thought, right? Especially with like the long dry spell that we had before it was announced that they were taking back over Metroid Prime 4. It was like, okay, so are there 2 projects in development, or did they scrap whatever?
Yeah,
they
it's
were
like,
working
what
on?
were you doing that whole time?
Right. Yeah. And try as I might, nobody from Retro will come on this show.
Nintendo's got a tight,
an iron curtain.
Yeah.
David, over the years, there's been like two people that were spouses of Retro employees that worked at Powerhouse.
Yeah.
Those people are such a tight trap. It's never, not even a single word ever.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Yeah.
In the 11 years I've known anybody that works.
I've honestly gotten a lot of Retro employees drunk, and they have never told me anything specifically for that purpose. But no, that would be wrong. But anyway, I did. There were rumors that this was being done in-house, or that this was. I mean, Retro is Nintendo, but at one of the R&D, like the Odyssey team, like there was some rumors about that going around, that this might have been taken off of Retro's plate. And honestly, if that's the case, I mean, Retro made 2 amazing Donkey Kong games, but I would like to see that kind of broach out into other avenues as well, especially if that means a 3D game. But either way, I just like seeing Donkey Kong in the news, man. I'm looking forward to Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong in the Mario movie. That's how much I'm a Donkey Kong fan.
The other trademark news I thought was interesting, mostly for different reasons, is that Nintendo is trying to trademark NSW, meaning Nintendo Switch, and I think in parts of the world, in particular, I think in Europe, which is
Australia.
Right, exactly.
New South Wales.
Exactly. Because NSW worldwide means New South Wales, Australia. And I also, have you ever heard anybody be like, yeah, I've been playing my NSW or whatever,
they fucking called the GameCube the GCN.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Nintendo really wants there to be weird acronyms for short console names to begin with, I guess, right? So I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Exactly for what you just said, Kellan, which is that everybody in Australia is like, I'm pretty sure NSW means something already.
Spoiled the joke. That's my bad.
No, that's great. I'm off. You're off this year.
You're out of here, mate.
And then moving on, over in Japan, Nintendo is apparently starting a service that's kind of like, I guess you could call like an insurance, like for your Joy-Cons, right? Like you can pay a monthly fee, kind of like you can for like Apple, to have your Joy-Cons like be replaced or repaired, rather. I think it's called Wide Care. I don't know why. And maybe that's a weird translation thing. It's not a lot of money. It's only like $1.50 a month.
That should be fucking included in your NSO subscription. That,
like, what is at $1.50 too?
That is admitting defeat at this point. That you're like keeping a fucking you're keeping a mechanic like on retainer to fix your.
I guess technically it's not just the Joy-Cons, but that's what gotta be what it's driving it, right?
Right.
Like it's anything can be repaired, up to 6 repairs, but yeah, it's only in Japan right now, and that pricing isn't bad. But like you said, if I'm paying, it should be like that could be a nice NSO perk. Right?
I mean, that should be free, right? I mean, it's free in the US
here,
to send in your Joy-Cons.
It's one of those like free, but they don't advertise it things. Yeah. Anyway, we haven't had some good Joy-Con suck news in a while, so that was nice to throw in there.
And it's this is I'm feeling very nostalgic right now.
Yeah. And then the Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the special edition, the version with the big art book and whatever else, steelbook and stuff. For whatever reason, these things are in demand and they only make a small amount of them, and they put them up for pre-order on some window and they sell out instantly. But that happened this past week. So there's always no indication if there's going to be more, right? Like, it's like, if you missed it now, you don't know if you should buy one from a scalper or not. So that whole process kind of frustrates me. If they want to make them limited edition, that's fine. I just wish they would say that, like how many or when they're going to, you know what I mean? For these reasons. But Matthew, did you pick up one of these?
Yeah, I ended up buying one. It was a whole process. I turned on the website on the Nintendo Store online, and then just like waited for it to load, because they put you in like a temporary holding website. I don't know what you call that.
Yeah,
they corral you.
Yeah, they put you in a corral. And I don't know, it took like 15 minutes. Then it appeared. I was like, is this going to work? I didn't know. So I ended up just buying one. Yeah, I ended up just buying one for Emma, one of our Discord users, listener of the show, fan of the show, former guest.
Yeah. Because she's like overseas.
Hopefully.
Probably future guest. Future Xenoblade guest, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that was very selfless of you, Matt.
Yeah, that was nice of you.
I mean, I wasn't going to buy one for myself anyway, so it's fine. Yeah. It was just to see if it would work. I wasn't actually banking on anything working at all, because the website was loading. I was corralled for a really long time. I'm guessing 15 minutes, but it could have been longer because it was just like on a second monitor, just loading.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He probably sent a Venmo money request as soon as he bought it.
Yeah, Matt was like, I was just about to burn my cash over here, and then I saw this was available. I thought I'd have some fun.
Yeah, might as well.
Well, if you are out there and you were interested in getting one of these, I'm curious.
Hit up Matt; he'll get it for you.
Yeah. Next time they release some, though, it's unclear if that's going to happen or not. The Return to Monkey Island game has been a bit of a fiasco. We talked about the change in visuals for these games, right? Like the new art style has been kind of rubbing people the wrong way, including, I think we all kind of said, it's a little bit different and weird. We don't know how we feel about it, but some people are just being fucking dicks about it and like, going on and on about it online, and apparently one of the writers on the game had to shut down their blog because people are personally attacking them, even though they're a writer and not probably in.
I think it's the creator of the whole franchise.
The creator. Yeah. I'm sorry, the creator's blog, right? So he is responsible, but it doesn't justify it. So don't be a dick on the internet, people.
Yeah, there's a terrible trend going around on Twitter right now of people just DMing employees that work at these game studios and harassing them about decisions that are way out of their control. You know what I mean?
If you want more Monkey Island games, don't be a jerk to the guy, right?
Yeah.
That's not gonna make this person want to make more games in what.
Yeah. And I mean, this is happening as well with, I think, God of War Ragnarok. I think people are really harassing Sony Santa Monica Studios employees, being they're sending them dick pics and stuff, being when's the release date? It's what the fuck do you think that's going to do? You think they're going to be oh yeah, thank you for your penis. It's October 30th. It's come on, dude.
Your penis reminded me of the day.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very stupid. This also reminds me of like, there have been a lot of games in recent memory that have had like major art style shifts, and people don't really like change in general, and so it's like reminds me of like Runner 3, or Runner Pitch of Runner 2 or Runner 3, one of those like changed from like a pixel art style to this kind of like very cartoony style. Nidhogg 2 had a big change from the original style. I actually
Wind
ended
Waker?
up yeah,
it was
like Wind Waker. Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're good. Yeah, and it's like that. It's always a lot to take in at first, but then once you actually like play it in practice, that's why it's like I'm not gonna just write off this game, even though the style isn't sitting with me necessarily right now, because like in practice, it's gonna be a different thing once you actually have your hands on it, right? So people just need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, you nailed it. People hate change. It's like whenever like a big website like Facebook or something rolls out some aesthetic change, people are like, give me my old. It's like, do you really want to be stuck in frames? And you know what I mean? Like,
where's
if
my
the internet
wall?
never evolved, UI can get better. It's okay.
I want my BBS forums.
And then last bit of news we're going to go over here is that the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, or however you say that thing, if you are subscribed to that, there's going to be, or there are now, right? They're already come out. Is that correct? Some new Genesis games. So the Genesis app seems to have been the one that's getting the most regular updates lately. Doesn't it feel that way? It's not, I don't know that it's been on any schedule. I haven't paid attention, but they seem to be adding 3 or 4 games every once in a while to that one. And we got Comics Zone, Mega Man, The Wily Wars, Target Earth, and Zero Wing, famous for its meme.
All your base are belong to us. Yeah. That's literally the only thing I know about that game.
That's all you need to know.
Nothing else.
This is a good drop though. And this is they're all different kinds of games, which is cool. Wily Wars is a good Mega Man. It's almost kind of like a compilation, right? Like on the Genesis of a couple Mega Man games.
Mega Man 2, 3, Mega Man 1, 2, 3, and then Wily Wars.
Yeah. And so that's really cool. And then Comic Zone is like that's a game that was really unique back in the day and has not quite been replicated. I feel like the style of that game still really holds up to this day and still feels pretty unique. You guys play any of these? Are any of you guys like have a Genesis as a kid, or is it?
No, I every time this happens, I'm always like, I don't know anything about any of these games because I only ever played Genesis at like friends' houses, and usually it was the big ones, not the Target Earths.
I used to play Comic Zone exclusively on kiosks at Toys R Us growing up. So I've maybe spent five minutes, multiple segments, 5 minutes over the course of several months.
That's where you perfected your 80% speed run.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the Switch Online Genesis thing is just a dedicated Sonic Spinball machine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true because it's not in Origins, right? You gotta get your spinball somewhere.
And so only half joking. It's like my favorite Sonic game.
It's a great game.
You need to edit that part out.
No. You're on the hook for that one.
I'll take it.
Well, I think that does it for our news section of the show. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking all about 2D animation in video games. All right, we are back, and this week we are talking with our guest Kellan Stover about 2D animation in video games. Kellan, thank you so much for being here, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what you do, and to start us off, explain that so we know that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank y'all for having me. By the way,
of course.
Yeah. So I have worked at Powerhouse Animation since 2011. Bizarrely, it was the first studio I wanted to work at out of college. First job I got out of college, and I, other than a brief 6-month stint away before I came back, I've been there ever since. And curiously, the very first project that I worked on when I started there was the Epic Mickey 2 animated cutscenes. So I really as soon as I got in the door, I was doing video game animation work, and intermittently spread throughout the last 11 years. It's been probably about half of the jobs that we get. We get ad stuff, YouTube things and stuff like that, and then a good chunk of changes from all these video game cutscenes. So I personally am now a director for the past 5-ish years or so. And so, I'm just overseeing a lot of fun different IPs that come through the door as our company's gotten bigger and bigger. Opportunities have just, increased. And I've been really lucky to just touch a lot of different fun IPs that, I grew up with, some that are new, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess to be clear too, a lot of what you do is cutscenes, right? When we talk about animation in video games, we could be talking about animating a character that you control, right? Which theoretically could be done with cell animation and all that kind of stuff too, right? But might be done with rigging and stuff for some games. And does that make sense? Is I don't know if I'm asking a clear question here, but are those two different skill sets, right? Or is there overlap? Or is
you can definitely. It definitely. A game animator, like a rigger, making 3D rigged animations for characters based on circumstances, while you're playing a game. It's the same kind of thing. You have to understand motion, everything like that. But the closest thing that we've ever done to that was we actually did a promotional pre-order standalone Final Fantasy 15 video game thing. Something like that. For GameStop's pre-order or something like that. And we actually did pixel art for an entire kind of hack and slash spin-off type of thing. But no, for the most part, it's for trailers and cutscenes and stuff like that. But my hat's off to actual video game animators and stuff like that. It's got to be quite a lot of just difficult contextual work,
Yeah, totally. I think it's cool that you started right off the bat with Epic Mickey, because that's a great example of a game that has very much its own style, but then is clearly inspired by the 2D animation of right, from the olden days, and even it's the very first iterations of Mickey, right? It's the kind of original black and white animation and stuff like that. So that's great. Have you always been a big gamer as well?
Yeah. I'm the youngest kid out of 3 others, so 4 total. And I grew up thinking that the NES was new. I'm 33 years old. It came out in 84 or something like that. And it's 93 and the Super Nintendo's already come out, and I'm playing Jaws on the NES and stuff because I don't know any better. But yeah, I definitely through and through a Nintendo person. We were talking about, I didn't own a Genesis either. The only reason I could play Sega games was going over to a friend's house. I never had a PlayStation until the PS4. So, so I've been along, all along the way with video games until very recently. I don't have a current gen console besides the Switch. And I don't know when I will get one. I just feel like I'm getting a little bit left behind, and I don't know if it's just lack of time or I'm just terrible at games now, but it's probably some combination of the two.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of the work that the boutique department, because it's not just series work. The boutique department is kind of who handles a lot of these game cutscenes and also trailers and stuff. I know we've done a lot of work with Devolver as well. And a lot of that stuff is trailer work. Were you directing a lot of those projects as well in partnership with Devolver?
Yeah, over the years, I've been involved with most of them, and then directed maybe, I'd say about a third of them at this point. I think one of the first ones that we got, and this was when Meg, who was the director at the time, she helmed the Broforce trailer that came out way back when. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. That kind of 80s action style.
I was doing a bit of supervision. So I did some character designs. I animated a little bit, did a little bit of boarding. And then ever since that, I think that was the first big project that we had with them. And we just had a really good partnership with them ever since. We did. I directed the Swords of Ditto announcement and launch trailer. I don't know if you guys ever played that. Which that team's new game coming out. What is it called? Something Squire, the Plucky Squire. You guys seen that?
No, I haven't.
Not to deviate, but that looks amazing. Yeah. And so nowadays, Ryan, one of the other directors, he's been lucky enough to get most of the Devolver jobs coming in nowadays. So I think the last one that they did was Card Shark. And then there were those Reigns. Did you guys ever play the Reigns card games? We did, I think, about two of those. There's like a Star Trek one, and then a just a normal. And then there's the Game of Thrones one. So we did 3 Reigns things. So yeah, Devolver is a very good patron of the 2D animation arts for all their content, and they're great to work with. So
yeah, I find that it's a lot of times you because it's like there's a whole art of the like launch trailer, right? Like, and it's not just 2D animation. You see a lot of times like any kind of animation. It's always not. There's like a story trailer and then like a gameplay trailer, right? And I find, especially with Devolver, but a lot of companies recently have been going to like 2D animation for these kind of like big hype announcements, and then you kind of like pepper in gameplay. And I wonder what it is about that really catches people's eye. Like I know. Spencer Wan did with his company the Hades
Grackle Studios.
Yeah, Grackle Studios. That's right. Yeah. And that was like a huge hit, and I think that was a big part in getting people really into what the game was, even though that game didn't really have any 2D animations in it. What do you think is it about that like catches people's eye or makes it so like useful as like a marketing tool?
So my first thought was like, there was that era where 3D games were coming out, and people hated seeing like, they'd show like a 3D rendered kind of like trailer, and you're like, well, that isn't what the game looks like. Right. And I don't know. I think 2D is kind of along the lines of like, people know that like this isn't the game, but this is something to get you hyped up for the game.
Right.
I think it works really well for like indie studios like pixel art games and stuff like that, because the jump from cute pixel art stuff to a cartoon characters in 2D animation is not so big of a leap. I don't know. I just think there's an innate charm to 2D animation. It could just be I'm a little bit biased. It's the one that I do, but I don't know. I just think it's a lot more fun to look at, and especially for a lot of like these retro-minded things, like especially Sonic the Hedgehog, which we'll talk about. It has such a legacy with 2D animation, everything going back to the Toei stuff and the OVA and everything that people love and stuff. So I think companies are just tapping into maybe a little bit of nostalgia, but also just kind of like it's the viable, affordable, and effective form of animation for something like this.
That's a good point that you said about like not wanting to be dishonest, right? Because that was such a thing for so long of just like, well, the fucking game doesn't look like that. It's like, of course, it's not going to look like that, especially if it's a pixel art game. It kind of like even helps you contextualize a little bit. Like, you can use your imagination a little bit on what these pixel art characters
you remember
are meant to be.
You'd see a trailer and it'd say like not game footage at the bottom. You don't have to slap that onto 2D animation. You can't be fooled.
I also think it's interesting to hear you talk about this too, because I think it may seem obvious to people listening now, and obviously it's obvious to y'all, but like the assumption would probably be for me, before I knew all this, that it's just the studio that makes the game that's doing these animations. It's really interesting to hear that, there are animation studios that, this work gets outsourced to, and that sort of thing, for cutscenes and for the trailers and for that kind of thing. So
yeah, I guess that kind of moves us on to like Sega, right? Because I know before working on Origins, you worked on the Super Monkey Ball trailer animation, which was like, for me, I'm like the biggest Monkey Ball fan in the world. I mean, maybe that's probably not true. There,
take a sip of the coffee now. Take a sip.
That's true. I do have my my mug. It's a nice gift. But yeah, that was super exciting for me to see. And I was also like, when I got the game, I was almost like a little disappointed that wasn't like the opening for the game. You know what I mean? It was like, this seemed like such a great, like obvious like thing to include, but it was really like, that was more of a marketing material for the game, correct?
Yeah, that was specifically scripted and produced with the trailer in mind. So, the Sonic stuff was cut together to make various trailers, and that one was always meant to be, cut to animation, cut to gameplay, cut to animation, cut to gameplay. We even like plotted it out exactly as such.
Right.
So, yeah.
But yeah, that was where we kind of had our first look at the powerhouse Sonic design, I guess, because Sonic was a bonus character in that.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that come about?
Well, so it was really curious. The Monkey Ball job was literally just the very first time Sega ever like contacted Powerhouse. I think they were asking for proposals, pitches, and stuff like that, and we were one of the ones. And I wrote together like a sort of just an outline of like how I saw it going down, just the 4 characters going through, various types of stage hazards and stuff like that, and then introducing the Dr. Bad Boon story elements towards the end and everything. And it went over really well. We threw some designs together, and they gave us the gig, and we just rolled with it. So, and Nathan Shabazi, who's kind of our main point in contact, was just such a great guy to work with. Asked for any kind of Monkey Ball lore or reference for anything, and he'd shoot it our way. And it was kind of serendipitous. I don't even think that marketing department talked to the Sonic team side of things about working with us, because I maybe not. I could just be making it up, but I don't think they even knew that we were working on the Monkey Ball stuff when they contacted us about the Sonic stuff. So, we just got our foot in the door twice in 6 months with Sega, and
that's cool.
Yeah. I guess let's talk Origins a little bit, because I think first of all, I'm a big Sonic fan, and like we've kind of already discussed here, like none of us were really Sega kids growing up. But like the Sonic series, like I got really into starting with like the GameCube or the Dreamcast really is when I got into Sonic with like Sonic Adventure, and then, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on GameCube. And then that big like mega collection that they released on GameCube was kind of like my first real foray into like, oh shit, these 2D games are incredible. Right. And it was like, that's when I was like really getting into that for the first time. So seeing Origins coming out, I was already on board, just like as a fan of Sonic Mania and kind of that whole team and how they would kind of recreate those games, like the mobile ports and everything. Like I've been having a blast with Sonic Origins, and that's, people have had complaints and praise on this game for different things. One thing that I don't hear anybody complaining about are the animations in the game. That's like the one thing that's pretty much like universally praised about this game are the animations. Can you talk to me just a little bit about like developing some of that stuff? Like early on, did you know like kind of what you guys wanted to do for this? Did you know that it was going to be kind of the intro and outro for each of the games, or like what was that like getting the job?
So I believe we were just kind of hired outright. The Powerhouse has the prowess with all the series stuff, and sometimes they like to think of us as one giant group, but we are divisions within that. So, for someone singing Castlevania praise, it's always kind of daunting when they come in and task us with this, which we're all jacks of all trades and everything like that. So, we got brought on. Lot of developmental conversations with Tyson and Tyson Hess and Jasmine Hernandez, one of the producers of animation for Sega, and I feel like it all kind of came together really well. We were told the parameters. We were told we were doing intros and outros for every game. And then an intro to the entirety of the game and an outro to the entirety of the game. So that's 10 cinematics. And, there's a little bit of back and forth about how much content we could provide for the budget and everything like that. And we settled on 5.5 minutes. And from there, most of the conversations were down to like taking the scripts, turning it into a viable thing for the allotted runtime, which
Mm.
is always very, very difficult. Anytime you read a script, you think, oh, that's probably only like, you think it's like a minute a page or something. Like it's
Yeah.
always longer, no matter what.
And then you storyboard it, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so they are true to the scripts, but they did involve a little bit of like paring down to make it work, kind of condensing things, finding different. It's a lot of like visual puzzle solving to make that script come to life with the allotted time. So like developing the style and everything kind of was an easy process, even if it was time consuming. I think everybody was on the same page. You want to bank on nostalgia to a certain extent. You want to look back into the catalog of Sonic's animated history. So, I was, watching the OVA in the corner of my screen most of the time that I was boarding and giving notes for designers and everything like that. Tyson really laid the groundwork with these sketches that people on Twitter were going apeshit about because, like, I think in 2021, he just kind of threw out some Sonic designs. It was like, just working on these, like, in my spare time. And those were the designs that he eventually gave to us to, like, slightly tweak. Mostly just palette. Almost all of those original drawings are on the Sonic model sheet for Origins. So
Right.
So we had that established, and then it really was fun to just kind of get a little bit of freedom and leeway. So Chris Beaver, background director, he and I worked in tandem really closely to get the background styles down. The one that's behind me was the very first production ready background that I painted to set kind of like the painting style and the tool sets to hand out to the background painters and everything like that. So it was all just I'm talking a lot. So it was all just like
that's why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Just like sometimes you get projects where you struggle with it and you can't find the language for it. And this one was just really trying to think of the kismet. Just like it really I was probably more focused and motivated than any project that I'd worked on before. And I think the crew also was, and everybody had a pretty good time working on it. So
yeah, I mean it's like it's obviously like a historic franchise, and it's like a huge honor to be able to work on anything
it's
like
terrifying
that, right?
too.
I would imagine, right? Yeah, it's like the pressure is very huge, but it's like, but Sonic's also having this like renaissance right now. It's like obviously Origins releasing, and then you've got the two movies, both of which Tyson Hess worked on as well. And then Tyson did the animation for, I don't know if he did all the animation, but for Sonic Mania as well. That whole opening was kind of his like brainchild, right?
I wish I knew the crew that he worked with, because that is fantastic. And that's honestly one of the first things that we, even for Banana Mania, when we were getting that job, we knew that Sonic, his designs were going to be in there as kind of a little Easter egg, and they were actually the Sonic Mania designs themselves.
Right.
So just watching that trailer to see the beats that they were doing and things like that is pretty much like tied into the DNA of the Monkey Ball piece that we did. But I wish I knew the crew that he worked with. But I do know that Tyson did a fair amount of animation on it and everything like that too. So I think it's very evident why his fingers are in so many of the Sonic pies as far as like animation goes. It's just like, he gets it. I don't think there's a person that draws Sonic better than him. Yeah. I mean, that's subjective, but like,
yeah, and then a lot of people are out there drawing Sonic.
Yes.
MS Paint and otherwise.
But he also does it so many times in such various different styles.
Yeah.
Like purposefully, like every single project he wants to bring something extra to it and different. So
I think that's what's amazing about his approach to it, and that's why he's now like the Sonic guy. Like it reminds me of like Star Wars almost, with like Dave Filoni is kind of like low-key, the Clone Wars guy is now kind of like low-key running all of Star Wars right now. It's like, it's like some people just get what is good and nostalgic about it, and especially with a game like Sonic CD included in this collection, which has its own incredible animated opening and outro, right? And it's like kind of keeping the style consistent with that is, I think, something. I think it's part of the reason why these are like universally beloved, right? It's like, obviously there's like y'all's own elements that you've brought into it, and you can see a lot of that powerhouse like flavor in there, but it's like it's tonally consistent with everything that's been around since forever. And I think it just seems like a great collab between y'all and Tyson.
Yeah, and a lot of our conversations when we were thinking about like what we eventually wanted it to look like was that like to varying levels. I remember we had character designs, we had some backgrounds. Lindsay Chastain, the post-production director in our department, she and I would come, put our heads together and pitch sort of varying levels of like, we went from like CRT television like effects out the wazoo, and then like pared it down to something like middle of the road, and then something that was like absolutely super clean, like, modern minded. But along the way, we all knew that we wanted it to have like a certain element of kind of just like a TV nostalgia to it.
90s. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm not disappointed at all, because like, it's very nuanced, but like one of the things I wish I saw people talking about is like, you can pause on a lot of these things and you'll note that, we got some color aberration around the edges to show like a little bit of color bleed and stuff like that. The channel's kind of, skewing. But we also have a constant like subtle cell drop shadow on things. And it's very hard. It's very subtle. At one point, we did have a version of all of these that had like a bit more grain going on, and like the black point was punched up, and there was a bit more like that like 90s anime fog to everything.
Yeah.
It got pared down a little bit just because compression in the final game was gonna just nuke all of that and just be a pixelated mess. So, So I don't know. It was just a really fulfilling experience to kind of take what we normally do in animation productions, like very modern-minded, After Effects driven and stuff, and say, pump the brakes on a lot of that extra stuff. We don't have a lot of like color ramping and additional lighting effects and stuff like that. It was very much, let's put cell on background and do very little else to it besides some of these kind of retro-minded effects on top of it. So
yeah, and even stuff like, because I'd never really noticed that specifically about like cell drop shadow or whatever on the like the kind of old school photography like elements that you would get from classic anime or whatever. But it's like, but now that you mention it, it's like, yeah, obviously that's there, and I don't think that the majority of people are going to notice that necessarily either, but it's like a subconscious thing, right?
Yeah. And that's what I think is working, is that people really like it. And I can't fault them for not knowing the technical know-how about why their brain is making them think that. But like, even down to one of my pet peeves with modern animation and kind of like anime stuff is I miss the days when line work was like expressive. I feel like there's a lot of like uniform thickness, very overly thin, just because we're in the HD age where you can get a really, really thin line on something like that. And of all things, one of my biggest influences trying to like land on a style for things was going back and just watching early Dragon Ball Z and late Dragon Ball stuff. And you'd have a close-up shot on a character where they allotted like a lot more line width variance and stuff like that. And we created a custom bitmap brush in the program Harmony that we use for animation that has that certain kind of like organic wobble to it and everything like that. So it's not a post treatment; it's inherent in the animation. And I'm glad people responded to it, because we worked so freaking hard on it, and mostly because maybe I'm projecting. It's maybe just me, but I was just terrified. Video game fans are great, but they're also terrifying. And Sonic fans are great, but they're also terrifying. I mean, you had an entire movie effects studio having to redo a Sonic design for the movie. I mean, granted, it all ended up working out, but that was because fans are that scary. So leading up to the release, I was just like, I was freaking out. Palms were sweating and stuff.
You're right. I mean, Sonic fans are a particular bunch, right? And it's like they know what they want, and and a lot of them are artists in their own right, and that's kind of like, that's something I've noticed about the Sonic community, and that's why Sonic Mania was a thing, right? Like that was a game made by fans, because Sega themselves were like, okay, well, we're going into 3D stuff. We don't really want to reapproach this. And the fans were like, dude, we've got this whole engine that we've created. We'd love to make this game. And I feel like Tyson as well, right? Started as a fan.
What's really curious is Tyson actually, we went to the same school. He was a year older than me at college.
Okay, cool.
And I didn't know him at the time. I never met him at school, but my roommate, Dustin, was a huge Sonic fan. And he would always be like talking to me about this Sonic fan artist that went to school with him. And he was like, I want to meet him and like talk to him about Sonic art and stuff like that. And like years later, I realized I was like, oh, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
And I told him about that when we were talking about animation professors and stuff that we had in school and everything like that. So
that's cool. Something I was pleasantly surprised by when I actually started playing Sonic Origins is all the unlockable content in the game that you can unlock with coins. Like, I was like, damn, there's a lot of powerhouse design documents in this game, man. And like, cause I work more on series stuff. Right. And you know, I'm an editor, so I work a lot with the animatics, but I was like very pleasantly surprised to see like every single animatic that y'all did for this thing, like in the game. That was pretty cool to see. Do you get like nervous about people seeing like work in progress stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So we had no idea what was going to be in the vault or anything like
right.
that. And the game came out and people started like posting, you know, stuff about what was, you know, what's in the vault. And they were like, oh, animatics are in there. And I saw them. I was like, oh God, no. Like, I'm very proud of my animatic work, the animatic work of the other board artists and stuff like that we put together for all of our jobs. But like, it is very much a tool for people in the know. And so sometimes they're, you know, sometimes they're a lot looser. They're just to get the ball rolling so that you can, you know, break it into scenes and actually start productions. And then luckily there are ones like the Sonic ones where those are very polished. If you look at them, some of the drawings are direct translations to keyframes and animation and stuff like that. So I saw them and I'm not used to people in mass seeing the animatics. I'm used to like 10 people on the client side going, cool, now do it, but good.
Yeah.
And I saw them in that vault and I was like, oh no. but that another thing, people talking on the internet saying like, I'm so thankful they put the animatics in here. Now I want to work in animation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm fine with that.
And I think maybe it's helpful for people to understand how things work. Maybe it's not like explained when it's just a screenshot in a, you know, something you unlock, but listening to you talk about it and seeing, you know, with early concept art and stuff in games when they unlock it, I think it's always, you know, as a fan or whatever, it can be helpful to realize, you know, the process is long and complicated and that there are early iterations of things and people understand that. And I think, or, you know, you'd hope.
Yeah, you'd hope. I'm hoping they see it and go, oh, that's a lot of work. Maybe I shouldn't be upset that it's 5.5 minutes and not 45 minutes like they might have wanted. So
Right. Yeah. And especially for an art form that is more niche these days than it used to be in 2D animation, right? It's like, I think like kids, you know, who have grown up on every TV show and movie or whatever, you know, not every, obviously, but especially with movies, you don't really see 2D animated movies that much these days at all. And so it's like, I think kids who are getting this game now after seeing the Sonic movie, seeing these animations, and then maybe seeing the kind of workflow that goes into it, I think, yeah, it's a great thing to inspire kids to like, to want to get into that line of work. And it's like, cause it's got a charm, man, that it's hard to replicate in CG.
Yeah. And I'm honestly, I'm glad it was part of a package that is welcoming to newer fans. I mean, I say that as if, you know, I don't want to play the hard ones either. Like, I don't know if you guys are like me. Playing anything in 4:3 now is just like torture.
Especially a fast moving game like Sonic.
Yeah,
where you need that extra real estate.
And you need to see what's coming your way. So I was always terrible at the Sonic games. The only one I played at length, you know, when I was younger was Sonic 2. And I just like, there's so many parts of those games that I never played because I'm just garbage at it. So, you know, not having lives is good for me. But at the same time, I'm like, the product is definitely for you were talking about this renaissance for Sonic. It's for these kids and younger folks who, I never really got to play these things, and now they're immediately accessible on the hardware that I have, but also like accessible in terms of play style and everything like that.
Mhm.
It's big.
Yeah, and if you want to like explore the games more, and not having to worry about lives at all, it's like it's a huge change just in and of itself. It makes it so much more enjoyable to play, I think. But
there's something that to be said about like whether games getting easier is because everybody's like, I don't know, earn as hard as we were back in the day kind of thing. I honestly think it's more that they needed to make them harder to make a shorter game experience last longer for your dollar.
Yes.
Because games at the time were also really expensive for like, for what they were with, inflation in mind. So,
we've talked about this a lot, and I kind of go off every time we talk about it. So apologies if I'm repeating myself, but like it's born out of the arcade, like, you know what I mean? And, and it's also like, I watch my son literally play a game, and if it's too hard, he'll quit. And you know what I mean? And a lot of times it's live systems on older games and stuff that cause those problems. Like he maybe doesn't, it's not even so much, you can have a hard game like Celeste or something with quick respawn, with, single screen. Like it's not even challenge. It's kind of what you're saying of accessibility and frustration of game over screens and you know what I mean, stuff like that. Anyway, I'll shut up.
No, it's all good stuff.
It was also maybe a way to perpetuate people buying more controllers when their kids freaked out.
You cracked the code.
Yeah. Anybody that's like throwing PS5 controllers these days, I'm like, what are you doing? These games are so not as hard as they used to be.
That's
why
you
get your anger in check.
And that's like a $75 controller.
Yeah.
Got a lot of moving parts in there. Yeah.
I don't know if Nintendo of Japan's Joy-Con program is going to cover that.
We have Switch Sports to thank for that. I mean, I guess just kind of like wrapping up as far as like animation in games is concerned. Like, you got any like kind of dream stuff you would want to work on, or do you like working with established IPs like this? Does the pressure get to you? Do you ever just like want to like do your own shit?
The pressure gets to me to just my own internal psychology, I guess I would say. Yeah, on the day-to-day, everybody's very confident and excited about what we work on. There are ones that come in. I would say Sonic is the very first one that made me like, just like, oh God, this has to be good kind of thing. And, I would check in on work stuff that got done that day at like 11 o'clock before going to bed because I was, second guessing myself. But for the most part, we work with a lot of really, really cool IP stuff. We do things with, Joe Mad doing stuff with Airship Syndicate and what was it? Darksiders. And then some other things. So there are a lot of small, more kind of like we get to, how do I phrase this? They're the big ones that are daunting, and then there are the smaller ones where someone brings us into the fold where it's very much along the lines of like, this is a partnership and how can we do this together really well? So creative control kind of oscillates in different ranges, but I really thrive on variety. That's why I like staying in the boutique part of Powerhouse. We're doing anywhere between 6 to 10 jobs at any given time. I'd say about half of those are video game related. So if I was to say something I would really, really love to work on, and not to start a rumor mill because absolutely nothing is happening. It's no secret that like, Sam at Powerhouse, Patrick at Powerhouse, these are two directors of other series, and myself are like gigantic Metroid fans. I would love to work on a Metroid animated thing. So like whether that was a trailer or whatnot, we've never been approached by Nintendo. I don't think it's easy to get your foot in that door.
Yeah.
As disappointing as it is for a Switch Headz podcast. I just think they play a lot of things much more close to the vest. And in order to do that, something has to change on the business front. And that's not what I'm a part of. So
yeah, I know. I mean, Nintendo, we were talking about this with retro stuff earlier, and they're just like so secretive, man, and like I just don't think I think they want to do everything in-house if they can, right? Yeah.
Which is why it was mind-blowing that they're working with Illumination on the Mario movie. I'm like, Well, that's the opposite of what I thought their mindset was when it comes to like working with external partners for things. So,
Well, I think there's like a slight sea change happening, right? I think there's been a lot more of this like outreach into different kinds of media and stuff like that. So you can only hope, man. But I mean, it's like, I'm obviously directing the Zelda anime, and so that's gonna be coming out soon. No,
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. I'm the owner of Netflix and Nintendo and Zelda. But having this kind of outreach into multimedia is obviously very popular with fans, and it worked really, really well for Sonic Origins. And like I said, it's the one thing that everybody loves about Origins, right? So it's definitely a good thing going forward.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm just really excited about continuing our relationship with Sega because, I mean, it is public knowledge. It hasn't been spoken about terribly much, but we are working on the Sonic Frontiers prologue thing that was very, very briefly teased in the
it's about 5 seconds of it.
Yeah. So that's what we've got going on right now. Nothing more to say about it, but it's gonna be even better. We'll just say that.
Yeah, can't wait.
Nice, awesome. Then I think that does it for this conversation on 2D animation and video games. And we'll take another short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the video games we've been playing recently. I'll start us off this week. I don't think I've really played much other than Mario Strikers Battle League and Smash, honestly. I've talked a lot about, both of those games, especially Strikers recently. So I don't know. There's a lot to say. I beat all the single player content in Strikers like shortly after our last episode. And so I've been dipping my toe into the online more because I'm still enjoying it, but I do wish there was more single player content.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you feel about your $60 purchase there?
Well, I've probably got I've split my time between 2 Switches, and I hate that the fucking Nintendo Switch won't tell you how much time you've played across systems.
Yeah.
So I've gotten probably close to or as much time as I put into the other Nintendo Switch Sports games, not Nintendo Switch Sports, the Mario Sports titles. So I feel pretty good about it, and I am I've been playing the unranked mode, and I feel like I can beat some people and I lose to some people. So I'm like, I haven't even really gotten into the ranked mode yet. So I feel like, and if the updates have some actual other modes and stuff, I feel pretty good about it right now. Ask me in a month or 2.
You're going pro soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be.
Yeah, that's what that means.
To the extent that this game has esports. Yeah.
You'll be hearing a G Fuel ad by next week.
New sponsor.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt? What have you been playing?
Mostly just Earthbound. Playing Earthbound. I've been playing also. I went to a friend's house. We played lots of dominoes, some Mexican train dominoes. So we just all sat around, talked and played analog dominoes. It was fun.
I can get down on some Mexican train dominoes. That's some good stuff.
It's so fun, yeah.
That makes me remember that I did play a little bit of Clubhouse games because my son has been curious about chess.
Let's go.
So I did play some of that this past week too.
Yeah. We should all play dominoes in Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics as soon as we finish recording on this 4th of July holiday.
That sounds fun. Oh, and then Earthbound. I talked about that at the beginning of the show. Then Earthbound's so good, man. So funny. Whoever wrote the localization, I'm just impressed by all the dialogue in that game.
Yeah, the kind of tongue-in-cheek humor. Oh yeah, I'll go next. I've been, like I said up top, I've been playing a lot of itch.io little indie games that no one's ever heard of on my Steam Deck, but I've been having a really good time with some of those. There's one called Hypnagogia Boundless Dreams that's done in this kind of original PlayStation style. It's kind of like a first-person platformer sort of game, so I've been really enjoying that one. But yeah, I've just been going through and grabbing games that have Linux builds and side loading them basically and playing them on here. And it's been a great way to, because it's if you're gonna want to sit down at your computer and just scroll through a shit ton of games and pick one, it's just a lot better when you're laying in bed. It's oh, I can try out this this game that I've never heard of. So I've been doing a lot of stuff like that. And then I've played a lot of Origins as well. I'm still working my way through that. And I'm on Sonic 2 now, but I'm like kind of slowly going through. I'm like playing it not like you normally would. Because you can like retry the bonus stages and you have unlimited lives. I'm actually trying to like get all the Chaos Emeralds every time that I'm playing now, which is very difficult. So I'm working my way through the game slowly and like not quitting whenever I get to a bonus and then just like getting really frustrated and giving up. So that's where I'm at right now on that one. But I'm getting better at the game. Played quite a bit more of Metal Gear Solid 4 on stream and been really enjoying that game. Been doing my playthrough of that whole series. This last act was absolutely insane on that game, and I'm loving it. I can't wait to get back into it. I bought Death Stranding for when I'm done with the series. I'm gonna play that on my Steam Deck, but I've got like 3 more Metal Gear Solid games to get through before I get to that, so that's still a ways off.
Backwards?
No, I started at the beginning. I started with Twin Snakes. I did Twin Snakes 2, 3, and now I'm on 4. So I'm like, yeah, just working my way up through the whole Kojima-verse.
Revengeance?
At some point, yeah. That's not like, I do have that. I bought that on my Xbox. At some point, I'll play that. I don't know if that's like in the official canon, though. I imagine it's not.
Is that the Raiden?
Yeah, the Raiden specific one.
What is Uprising? Isn't there one Metal Gear Uprising?
Oh no, it's Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah. It's got
Definitive
lots
Edition,
of names.
Echoes of Elusive Age. Yeah.
All right. And that's got like the buff president, right?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
I only know it from memes. I never played it.
It's like the meme game of the summer for sure. Like it's definitely popping off on all platforms. And then lastly, I did want to say I finally gave Shredder's Revenge a good college try. I gotta say, still don't really like beat 'em ups. I don't really like that genre, but I will. I mean, it's clearly amazing, right? It's like very, very well made. Like it's got tons of heart and soul and love. Yeah. Speaking of Sonic Mania, T-Lopes, who did the soundtrack for Sonic Mania, also did the score for Shredder's Revenge. So the music's just like fucking slaps the entire time. I'm having a great time. But as somebody who didn't really grow up with the Turtles, I was a Power Rangers kid. I wasn't a Ninja Turtles kid, right? So it's like, that is all lost on me. This whole genre is kind of lost on me, but I have only played by myself so far. So maybe if I can team up with some people, I'll have a little bit more fun, but I got a few levels into that and I enjoyed what I played so far. But I don't know. Sorry. I wish I was like
accepted, dude.
I'm a beat 'em ups guy now. But,
Feelings were hurt, but yeah.
That also has a great 2D animated opening. I'll tell you that one.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see Power Rangers, new brawler from Power Rangers.
Do you remember that old one where they were all just palette swaps of one another? So like the pink and yellow Rangers were just jacked as well. We were talking about everybody being jacked.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I'll tell you this. I can't tell these turtles apart. I'm sorry, everybody. They all seem the same to me.
Different colors.
Yeah, I guess they have different colors. Weapons.
Yeah. Voice acting.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't tell. Kellan, what about you? What have you been playing, man?
Well, I have played Shredder's Revenge. I didn't buy it, but my buddy did. And we literally had a come over, drink beer, and play drink beer, eat pizza, and play Shredder's Revenge. I will say, I guess I'm not as big of a brawler fan as I was. A beat 'em up kind of thing. It's still fun, and it's really banking hard on this nostalgia for me because like a lot of the move sets are the same thing from like Turtles in Time and Manhattan Project. If you played those games way back in the day, I will say don't play it with more than 3 people because it gives you the option to have, I think, 6.
Yeah, up to 6. Yeah.
And I played with 5 people, and there's not enough real estate for what's going on. It never chugged or slowed down because it's a pixel art kind of minded game. But I could not tell what was going on. I had to choose Splinter so that I didn't get visually lost.
Oh yeah.
And even then, I was just like, I don't know what's going on. My old man eyes. And then beyond that, I said I was playing Skyrim. I'm terrible at that game as well. This is a running theme. putting a lot of time into that, even though I'm accomplishing nothing because I'm a completionist and I can't not open every fucking chest and barrel that's in every room. It's a problem.
I mean, that's the
That
game
game.
rewards that kind of behavior.
Does
I
it?
think. Yeah.
There'll
I mean,
literally be a barrel that says empty, and I'm like, well, I got to open that anyway. So I was playing that. I just started playing Fall Guys. You are totally correct in that it runs like absolute crap on the Switch.
yeah.
But damn, is that a fun game to just drop in and drop out with some friends. I haven't screamed and howled that loud playing a game that isn't Smash Brothers
Yeah.
in a long time. And I think that's it for video games. I've been doing a lot of board games with friends and stuff on Fridays and played like Bang and Hero Quest and a couple of other things like that. So
Very
I'm not
cool.
much of a board game player, but a lot of my friends are. So I'm kind of getting up to scratch on that stuff. So
Yeah, I need to. It's been a long time since I've like sat down and played a game with friends like that. I'd love to do that.
there was one called like have you heard of one called Karmaka or something? Man, that game turned me into a evil person. I was just yeah. It's something happens to me when I play board games and card games. I just want to hurt people. So
Good to know.
That's called
Duly
wanting
noted.
to win.
I don't know. I actually wouldn't mind losing as long as I hurt somebody in the process.
Very evil indeed. Very evil.
You know.
Well, then I think that's it for this week's episode. Kellan, thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming
having me.
on and
Yeah, that was
talking
fun.
with us. Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. And if you're looking for me, Patrick online, I am PDYX.
I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Kellan? Where can people find you online?
I don't remember my Twitter handle. Hold up. I am literally just at Kellan Stover, KELLANSTOVER on the tweeters. And my Instagram is personal, so don't find me.
Very good. Very good. Doesn't get any simpler than that, folks. Give them a follow. Yeah, and make sure you guys check out Sonic Origins. What a blast of a game, and very pretty animations to boot. If you'd like to find our show on social media, you can find us at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We are got a website, www.switchheads.com. And then join our Discord and Facebook group. We'll have links to both of those in the description of this episode as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it on our episode about 2D animation and video games. Yeah, thanks again for coming. What a blast. We're going to be back next week with an all brand new episode. So make sure you tune in for that. Maybe we got some pretty big games coming out pretty soon. So maybe we'll talk about some of that stuff coming out. Everybody be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. We love you very much. We'll talk to you next week about some more video games. Bye-bye.